Everybody, this is Perch, and I don't know why this topic catches me so much. I've done a few videos over the couple of years talking about this, just this weird policing of comments that you see, and this is where authors will, or writers in particular, again, you don't see it as much from artists, and I think there's a bigger topic somewhere down the road of why is it that certain things that really seem to trigger writers obsessively, you don't see the same thing with artists. It's just there's a different mentality there, and the ones that are combo writer artist folks also don't seem to have that same kind of DNA. But you see this particularly with writers on social media. I mean, I'm of the opinion that if you're a writer, social media is bad for you. It's you're probably the one that it's the most poisonous. You're the most susceptible to losing your mind on social media. So maybe if you're a writer, just it's bad for you. Again, artists seem to handle it better. There's a couple people that do really weird things. Again, I can't wrap my head around whatever Mark Brooks is doing on his Twitter feed these days. It's very bizarre at times. But I mean, he'll go back and delete stuff, and so at least there's some kind of recognition that something went awry. But there's a lot of writers who just write crazy stuff, and I'm not talking the baseball bat to the teeth kind of stuff. I'm talking like weird, I'm thinking of killing myself, and just sits out there forever, or I hate doing my job, and sometimes I deliberately ignore emails and phone calls from my team. Why would you post that publicly? What are you doing? One point that did come up, and the guy, somebody from the rags team shot me this, and it is true. There is an issue with sending unsolicited, story ideas your way. That does create a weird problem, and it does freak out people when you do that, because the problem is a lot of writers look at that as, is this step one of a two-step, screwing, where you post somebody's idea for a comic. It vaguely resembles an idea the writer already had. Now the writer's in the position of, well, do I need to change my story? Because if I don't change my story, am I going to get accused of, of stealing this person's idea? I mean, it opens up a whole can of worms that is painful to deal with. That said, I think you can write as a writer. Don't send me unsolicited story ideas all you want. It just, at the end of the day, people are going to either do it or not. I mean, I don't know. This is, again, one of the problems maybe of social media. There's not a lot of ways you can control that. But the reason there's a bunch of conversation that kind of sparked from those videos, and the one that I thought was worth talking about today is just criticism in general, and this idea that you're a healthier, stronger person if you learn how to take criticism, or at least deal with criticism. Now, it's worth noting at this point, not all criticism is valid, and certainly social media in the era of hot takes and dunking on people, a lot of stuff that gets said is crap. And I've heard from, again, a lot of people, all ends of the spectrum. I've heard from YouTubers who do lots of videos like me complaining about creator behavior, complaining about criticism as well that they get. Criticism comes from all directions, and it's one of those things where this is where I'm curious if anybody who's listening to this video, let me know in the comments if this was your experience. But when I went to school, I remember in like second, third grade, talking a lot about how you handle criticism. It was actually in school. This was a topic that was taught of, you have to have thick skin. You have to make sure that, the whole sticks and stones don't break my bones. That original silly statement was really made as part of a broader lesson to help kids wrestle with criticism. And the lesson really was along the lines of, you have to be able to, hearing something bad about yourself never feels good. You have to be able to analyze it as, is this legitimate criticism? Is this somebody who's just saying something, nutty to try and get under my skin? Is it, what is going on? Is this person trying to help me and maybe doing a bad job of verbalizing it? Or is this person actually a dick? It's just, I think that people used to give kids tools on how to deal with that. And then it was, these were lessons that as you grew, you held on to. Today, I would say for myself, just speaking for me, I when I consult, I'm frequently in a place where people will will criticize. If you've worked in the tech industry, some companies, some personalities, particularly among management, pride themselves on being kind of over the top lunatics in how they dish out criticism. It's like it's the Gordon Ramsay of an office where you're going to come in and you're just going to scream at somebody, and the goal there is who knows. I mean, people have said, like, I spent some time at Microsoft, and a lot of the upper management, Steve Ballmer, famous for shouting at people, and Bill Gates even more so. I mean, he would throw things at people and just shout at them, and just very angry guy. And people would always say, well, he's trying to harden you up. He's trying to make it so you think tough. That may be true. In the back of my head, I always thought this is somebody who's kind of emotionally stunted, who finds themselves in a position of power where they can scream at somebody with no consequences, and so they're going to take that opportunity. That's always how it feels like to me. I've never been a big fan of the like getting yelled at builds character. I don't think so. But at the same time, in your life, you're going to encounter people who are going to say terrible things to you. Either, maybe you poured your entire heart into a project and somebody comes along and it's like, boring. And it cuts you deep. It makes you it's very tough. And today, and I don't offer this, by the way, as a suggestion, if you feel like trolling comic creators, one of the nastiest ththings you can do, I mean, nasty isn't maybe the right word, but if you really want to hurt somebody, you don't go in and tell them, hey, you dumb woke writer, or you SJW writer. That's very easy to ignore at this point. But if you go and go, I normally like your stuff, but honestly, for the last couple of years, it's very dull. I can't actually remember anything that you've done. Nothing's really meant anything that you've done. Said, I'll much respect. In fact, it's if you say it with a lot of politeness to it, it makes it worse. It's like, much respect. I really loved your work, back when it was good, but now it's very, very dull. I just none of it has any meaning. It feels very derivative. Like, it's that kind of stuff that haunts people's dreams. No, that's not a suggestion of how, next time you want to punk some creator. That's not how you do it. But regardless, I think that at some point, I don't know when, over the last 20 years, maybe, at some point, this lesson stopped being taught to children. The entire idea of how to handle criticism seems to have gone away, because now we have a group of people who are extremely delicate about any kind of critique. It's this words are violence kind of thing. We've removed the ability for people to take criticism. And this is a really important skill for everyone to own. And if you're in comics, if you're going to create any kind of creative work, musician, actor, whatever, writer, you need to be able to digest criticism. You need to be able to, with a smile, hear it, take it, not let it, completely wreck your entire life, and move on. And this is one of those things that I think would generate a far healthier comic industry if a lot of the people involved in it were not so over the top sensitive to any kind of critique. Because this isn't just what you see on social media between customers, fans, and creators. This goes into what happens in the office. There's several editors I know, and when I go out drinking with editors, 9 times out of 10, part of the conversation is around how to handle creators who really can't take any criticism, and how do they kind of slip in feedback, and if they need something redone, how do they need to, like, almost over the top praise the person before sliding in the one little bit of bad information. It's the shit sandwich is and if you haven't heard that term before, it's like the really nice compliment with the insult in the middle, and then the really nice compliment to wrap it up. It's like, we're going to take this bad news, we're going to wrap it up in some really pleasing, kind of strokey, good information, so you don't quite realize you're eating this bad sandwich. Anyway, that's it. Imagine a world where things were would be so much more direct. If you could simply say, hey, this script you turned in here, this whole middle act, it doesn't land well. It's not going to work out. It's going to be very hard for the artist to illustrate this. We're going to lose people on issue 3 and 4 of the 6-issue arc. You undercut the conclusion. Imagine if you could just have those conversations with writers, and you'd be like, "Wow, I didn't." Yeah, looking at it from that angle, maybe you're right. Imagine if you're a comic writer and somebody does come up to social media and starts just screaming at you for no reason, and rather than have that wreck your day, because I can tell you, I've had conversations with writers and with creators who have talked about their days being blown from a mean comment on Twitter. But I don't need to tell you that. You don't need to trust me. You can actually go to these people's feeds and they'll say things like, I haven't been able to do anything today because of that mean comment that was made at 10 a.m. They'll just post this stuff publicly. Mags on her Twitter account will say this stuff just right out. Like, some people were rude and I can't get past it. It's been days. Like, why are you writing that? But regardless, imagine if instead of feeling that way, instead of having these comments haunt you, imagine if you were able to go, you know what? It doesn't bother me. I'm going to move on with my life because I know how to handle criticism like an adult, or like a kid, like a kid from 20 years ago when we used to teach this stuff. You'd be happier. You'd be healthier. I mean, the crazy part is if you're a writer if you're Dan Slott, for example, working at Marvel clearly is committed to you. Now, give it 5-10 years. If the sales aren't good, maybe they're less committed to you, but you've got this contract. You're writing their biggest characters. You've done the last, 5 years. You've been on Iron Man. You've been on Spider-Man. You've been on Fantastic Four. I mean, you haven't had that Avengers run yet, but maybe it's coming. I don't know. But they did a special where you look like a complete doofus, but you've been on Disney Plus as one of their featured creators. At this point, Dan Slott has to go to sleep at night feeling very good. He's made a lot of comics. He's clearly supported by the company he works for. Many of those comics have sold. They continue to invest in Dan Slott. And yet, if you read his Twitter feed, it comes across like somebody who is absurdly paranoid about criticism. Like, he can't take any of it. That skin is paper thin. He is it haunts him. He will somebody will post something, even slightly rude to him, and he'll jump all over it, get angry, block the person, but then for days afterward continue to obsess over it and talk about it and retweet it and post it. You can tell by the way he talks that he's even though he's blocked the person, he's still searching and finding them so he can see what latest things have been said. I don't know about you guys. If I ever get to a point where I block someone, I don't go look. I don't then, go and click or go to an alt account and go like, oh man, I wonder if they're still, I wonder what they're talking, this person who blocked me. I wonder if they're angry. I wonder what they're saying. I have none of those thoughts. Like, when the person has been blocked, they're just gone. It's like Thanos snapped. You're like, poof, the dust blows away. And I'm like, okay, that person never existed. I don't know. That's again, maybe this is just how I was raised. I've done, if I'm having a fight and the fight's not going anywhere and it's clearly a dead end, I'm like, all right, I'm over it. Gone. It's so much happier and healthier. I promise you. You want to be here. It's so much better. But this is the kind of stuff that I think that comics does have a real problem with. The creators, and I mean, again, mainly the writers. Because if you can handle criticism, if you can be able to sort out what's legitimate, what's not, and not have it just kind of haunt your life, you're going to write better. You're going to learn from your mistakes better. You're going to be open to learning from mistakes. You're just going to be a healthier, more well-adjusted person. It's so much better for you. And I mean, this isn't just true with comics; it's true with everything. Learn how to handle criticism. It's a good thing. It's not weak. Again, I am amazed by the people who throw their weaknesses out on full display. You can get creators who are, who you can get creators running hugely successful crowdfunded campaigns, and you go and you look at it on Twitter, and they're like a nervous wreck. It just, again, paper thin skin. People will say even mild criticism, and the person will lose their mind over it. And it's like, brother, you're sitting there, six figures. You're making more money than you made at any other point in your career. Why are you worrying about this? Why are you obsessing over this? Just be happy with your success. It's nutty. And granted, Twitter, Facebook, these kinds of programs, it's one of the reasons why I hate them. They are tuned to try and pick at that scab and make you crazy, make you basically forget that you're successful, forget the positive things that have gone on in your life, and instead obsess about some rando coming at you. It's not healthy, but you see it everywhere. It's very, very strange. Anyway, thanks for all the great the comments that I've been getting on the videos. Really appreciate that. I love all the questions and the support and everything. It's wonderful. And yes, the criticism, it's fine too. I mean, the people who are criticizing the videos, you're providing engagement and clicks to that video. So thank you. You're funding more comics. Thanks for listening.